Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Tuesday, and that's when we have Team Training Tuesday. My name is Essa Zanambasi. I am a medical doctor by training. The name of my brand is Simply Healthier. And I truly believe that being healthy should never be complicated. And as I said in my intro, we want to spotlight the children today, and it's actually a continuation of the theme for the month, which has been choice. Yes, it's just that with the children, they have a disadvantage in that they can't make their own choices while they are still children and while they are under the care of their caregivers, be they parents or other relatives. So what we want to talk about is, how do we as adults choose on behalf of our children? It's actually very, very important to be mindful about how we choose. So yes, spotlight on our children. And let us just get on with the presentation. You know, it's so important to ensure that children get adequate nutrition and get the correct nutrition. But how do we do that? It's not that easy these days. It is even made more difficult because detecting malnutrition can be very difficult. Modern diets are the culprits, I believe, because we have those low nutrient, high calorie foods that are everywhere. And then we see children who are chubby and we think that they're very healthy because they're not skinny and they're not scrawny, and yeah. So we mistake what we are seeing for good health, when in fact, it might not necessarily be. Today, the body's ability to store fat leads to negative health outcomes and consequences. So, why it is crucial to establish good habits early? Malnutrition in childhood, especially in infancy, leads to permanent effects that negatively interfere with normal growth and development. That's a fact. Also, children have lower nutritional reserves because they're children, right? And so if there is any challenge, then they are in real trouble. Then childhood events, yes, that's what I needed to say, can occur, such as burns, trauma, infections, infestations. And if they have those low reserves that we've talked about, then aggravated malnutrition occurs. If there is already malnutrition, it becomes even worse. And they don't have the resilience to withstand, for example, trauma. So malnutrition manifesting as childhood obesity and chronic inflammation, by the way. I've always been saying that we need to look at what overweight and obesity really is, and it is evidence of chronic inflammation. So that is becoming increasingly more common as a result of highly processed foods, inadequate physical activity. It is also thought to be associated with underactive adrenal and thyroid hormonal function, which really indicates that even as children, they can have hormonal imbalances. And then there's also a strong link with exposure to toxins. So for the guests, I really want to welcome you to this event or this training, and just to say that we belong to a family called Neolife. It is a total value family and opportunity, and we pride ourselves in having the best products, not only nutritional supplements, but also cleaning and personal care. But more about that later. I just wanted you to know that that's what we have. Right. So we have a founder of Neolife. His name is Jerry Brassfield, and he is quoted to have said, "Eliminating fear will free us up to take a few more steps towards our goal." Now, it is really true that many parents think their children are very, very healthy until the child falls sick. And then, oh boy, they start panicking and running to hospital and medicating that child. When one way of eliminating that kind of fear is actually to know what to do to prevent such situations. So that is what this particular training is all about. So let's think of some examples of negative health outcomes as a result of perhaps poor nutrition and poor growth. In a child, it may crowd out space in the body that could be occupied or should be occupied by organs, leading to growth disorders. And then it may lead to stress and strain on the back, on the legs, and on internal organs, resulting in physical symptoms. You hear these children as they grow into teenagers developing all sorts of physical symptoms. And then insulin resistance can result, leading to prediabetes and diabetes, frank diabetes, as the child grows into an adult. And then there's increased susceptibility to infections. And once a child is begun on antibiotics, and that trend is established, that sets them up for a lifetime of poor health. And then, of course, another negative health outcome, higher risks of cardiovascular diseases, respiratory diseases even, and other chronic diseases that we now call lifestyle diseases. And then for the women, there may be pregnancy complications due to poor growth. They may have difficulty with having babies normally, for example. And then, of course, our psychological effects that happen. So we need to think with a long-range vision, and that's one of our values as a family. Now, I've just put here manifestations, symptoms that we might see commonly in children: nasal congestion, cough, wheezing, itching, skin rashes and hives, bloatedness, headache, fatigue, irritability. But we may think, oh, well, let's just give this medication and that medication, when in fact, it might be signs and symptoms in that child suggesting allergy. And an allergy is a response to something irritating within the body or in the environment. And the result of that may also, if it is a chronic situation, result in that child having growth disorders and problems, such as being short for age, being thin or bloated, being dull and listless. And of course, the immune system will be compromised and the child is always sick. Will have a poor appetite as well, because of deficiencies of minerals, as an example, leading to alterations or abnormalities in the senses of taste and smell. And then again, we keep coming up with mood challenges, such as irritability and anxiety. So we're dealing with a lot that we as adults have to consider in our children. So just let's remember a few points here. Nutrition deficiencies are a big driver of, for example, asthma and other manifestations that I've mentioned as allergy. So vitamin B complex deficiency, vitamin C, minerals such as magnesium, manganese, zinc, selenium. Excuse me. Then we know for a fact that people with asthma generally have lower than normal levels of stomach acid. And also, if there are amino acid deficiencies, such as those that we call essential, methionine, cysteine, this can lead to poor repair and growth of tissues and result in chronic inflammation. So we are setting up a case for why we in this family have what we have. So some more points to remember. When a child is put on lots of medications to treat the diseases, which are in fact symptoms in that situation, most drugs, it has to be remembered, can cause jitteriness, mood swings, and inability to sleep. Then another point to remember is we have to be so aware of the presence of food additives and preservatives, and their effect in a small child is usually more adverse because of the size of that child. So that is something that we really, really have to be aware of. Right, so we can move on. And all of us wish our children were eating very well, and we wish upon everything in us that nutrition, health, and safety for our young children was always optimal and easy. But it is not. It is not. And to promote wellness, most of us send our children off to school early. So we literally depend on other people. And depending on the institution that we've sent them to, or the preschool or the primary school, they may not necessarily get everything that we desire for them. Plus, we may actually have to be dealing with quite a lot of peer pressure. So that is something to consider. So now my question is this, that who can we trust? I've talked about school systems, I've talked about families and caregivers who might just not know what to do. Yes, so a lot of people have resorted to supplementing, and that is the point of this slide. A lot of people are buying some sorts of vitamins, and even for children, the children's formulations that are sold commonly in supermarkets and stores might not be in the best interest of the child, because if you know what goes into them, you might not actually want to start your child on them at all, because it might set up a cycle and a lifetime of poor nutrition instead of addressing nutrition deficiencies. Yes, so some researchers found that between the years 2007 and 2016, when a research was done, 776 products that were marketed as dietary supplements contained hidden active ingredients that were either unsafe or unstudied. So for the sake of our children, parents, adults, we need to be very, very careful. So when considering whom to trust, it's good for each one of us to do our due diligence and check out who has actually done the work, the hard miles. And we in this company have the Scientific Advisory Board, and that's a picture of them. It was founded by Dr. Arthur First, around about 1976, and it's a group of scientists who are experts in their field. And as a board, they have an ethic, the ethic that everything that they present to us has to be based in nature and backed by science. And they were also the pioneers for human nutrition at giving nutrition at the cellular level. And this is a picture of a human cell. And inside there are parts that actually do the work of that cell. And the important ones that produce the energy are called mitochondria. So those are the workers. And then you have those that, the part that holds the future of that cell and that individual, the nucleus. Yes, that's where all the genetic material that is passed on to the next generation resides. So with that in mind, and knowing that we have a group that have truly chosen to look out for our health, let us, for the sake of the guests on this call, talk about how we should be ideally. When we are born, we are supposed to have as much health as possible, 100% health, and we should aspire to live beyond 100 years, if that is possible. But unfortunately, what happens is that pretty soon we slide into the tired zone and on into the sick zone. And that slide is brought about because of, in my simplicity of explaining it, our lifestyle and our exposures to toxins and perhaps not taking in enough nutrients. So the result of that is that we lose out on a big chunk of our life, potentially. And we live for far too long in this tired and sick zones and hardly stay in the energetic zone unless we do something about it. And that's not what we wish for our children, let alone for ourselves. So that's why I thought, let us look at what we can choose for our children. And so we have this concept of the wellness triangle or pyramid, which says that the base of it should have physical activity and weight management. And then we should have a diet rich in whole grains and fruits and vegetables, and fewer of the fats and sugars. Those we don't need huge amounts of. Unfortunately, most unfortunately, especially following food processing, we are having very little whole grains because the grains have to be processed, and out of them, they take the key ingredient and leave us the starch, if I may say that. And as a result, there's very little activity and all these other things are eaten, but the quality of them may have deteriorated as well. And right up on top, instead of it being very little, it is mainly fat and sugar. That is the modern diet, the typical lifestyle diet. So now what we need to consider is that the cells with this kind of diet become very unhealthy, and yet we want them to be healthy to allow nutrients in and waste out. So we have a solution in this family, and this is the flagship product called TreeMN. It has been shown that by replacing or putting back what was stripped from all grain, and that is what this product has. It has 3 grain oils, that is from wheat, rice, and soy, and it is the oil, people sometimes panic that there might be a protein in there called gluten. No, it is just the oil. And this will enhance cell energy, reconstruct the cell membranes, all the trillions and trillions of cells in the body. And you need to remember that a child who is growing actually adds on through the growing process about 1 billion cells every single day. So this is important for children. And it also will improve utilization of other nutrients by a huge margin, so that whatever is eaten is actually utilized by the body fully. So now let's go on and look at children's nutrition presented by Neolife and the answers that they are to impact children's lives and make the world healthier and happier. And I'll start with the core nutrition. And I've started on purpose with this particular slide. We need to give our children protein in the form of what Neolife has presented to us, which has all the 22 amino acids and other nutrients as well, the right ratios of the carbohydrates, the fat, and vitamins and minerals. So that is very important. Then we have preparations such as Liquivite for the younger children. This is a liquid form, and it has, if you read carefully, it has the grain concentrates that I've just described. It's an exclusive blend of whole grain, lipid, and sterols. Can you imagine? This is the only product that is aware that even growing children, and especially growing children, need those grain oils. We have Vita Squares. Again, look at that. It has TRINN grain concentrates for the children. And we have VitaGuard, which will give you the complete antioxidant complex. And a lot of us are very, very concerned about the rising prevalence of cancer and other dread diseases. But you see, they happen because the body is ill prepared. And that's why we need to be sure that we feed our children and close that gap. So, bridge nutritional gaps. And as I say, it's a true story that those gaps exist. And Vita Squares and VitaGuard are phenomenal. I'll tell you a little story. There was once a woman who came to me complaining that her children's appetite was so bad that she needed to put them onto something. So she was very, very eager to try the Vita Squares. And when the children started taking them, their appetite improved a lot, so much that the lady got concerned that she would not afford to feed her children. So she stopped using Vita Squares, which I found really sad. But what happened there was that the children who previously were so malnourished that they couldn't even taste the food because they lacked the minerals, they lacked everything that was needed, started eating to catch up on lost time. And so mothers who are on this call and mothers and fathers, please let's be so aware that that can happen at the beginning. When you first start a child on a good nutrition supplement program, they might look like they're eating too much, but eventually after some weeks, they settle down and eat normally. In fact, they stop craving for what they previously were craving for. So we also have vitamin C for the little ones. I like it very much. I'm always sucking this vitamin C. And then we have omega-3. Omega-3 is very, very important for children. We shouldn't underestimate its importance. It's perfect for any age, but particularly for children. Omega-3 helps with the growth of their brain, and it can be paired with the other products that I've talked about. And for older kids, younger kids, pregnant mothers, so that the child that is growing can get it as well. And then we have vitamin A and D. Now, I like this product very much because it's well priced, but vitamin A and vitamin D are important for growing children to really enhance the immunity of their lungs, of the gut, of the eyes. And so it is a good product in that it is not very expensive. It is totally affordable. So some parents might say, okay, some months will give vitamin A and D and then stagger the omega-3 or stagger something else like the Beta-Guard, the Vita-Guard. But be it that as it may, I would have the guests know that we actually have a way to save money and make money so that all these things become affordable. I've put here lipotropic adjunct because of the fact that it has vitamin B complex. The vitamin Bs are very, very important. But I mentioned that younger children tend to have low levels of hydrochloric acid in the stomach. Now, betaine hydrochloride will help to boost that production of hydrochloric acid, and that can help with managing manifestations such as allergies and asthma. Right, and then ultimate protection. Do you know that even children need to have a detox from time to time? It is important to detox regularly, even in children. And I mentioned minerals, and I'm going to project minerals again. But chromium is very important for insulin signaling, even in children. Calcium, potassium, magnesium, zinc, all are very important for the body's enzyme systems. And then we know that we are getting very few minerals because of food processing and the growing systems, the way food is grown these days. So supplementing minerals is important. And it also helps in detox. So as the children grow, detoxification should be introduced. We adults seem to think that it is only for ourselves, but I've seen it in a child that I did a detox with. I may have mentioned it previously. And she improved so much. She had a challenge with her skin, and now that has totally cleared up. And that just proves to me that even a child as young as 6 years old, in 6 years, it is possible to accumulate a lot of toxins. Right, and then we have this product that is excellent at deworming. So deworming is also an important routine, and we need to remember to do that for not only children, but us adults as well. Right, so just as a recap, malnutrition, it is a common reason for cravings. And you know, children, you've seen them craving for sweets, cakes, screaming their heads off for sweetened things. That is a sure sign of malnutrition and all those highly processed foods. If you want to stop those cravings, start supplementing the children. Okay, so now let me just change gear a little bit and let's talk about those toxins that we mentioned as being problematic. Yes, children may mess up, but we have products that are non-toxic, and you can be sure that your child will not come to any harm. So I'll go through them quickly and say, please choose to change. Our theme this month is choice. Choose to change your home and personal care products for the sake of your children. So we have highly economical, very, very effective, but most importantly for the children, non-toxic cleaning products. And we have a washing powder that will not leave forever chemicals such as phthalates and PCBs and other plasticizers that can then lead to the kind of obesity and overweight challenges that will not be reversed because they just stick around for a long, long time. That's why they're called forever chemicals. We don't have any of that in this washing powder. So again, for the sake of your child and your children and future generations and the environment, please choose to change. So just to say that, as usual, our creator has a word about what we should be doing. And I love this scripture in Proverbs. Train up a child in the way he should go or she should go. And when he grows up, he will not depart from it. So we need to start early, and that way we will avoid all those chronic lifestyle diseases that have really captured our imagination as a profession when the children grow up. So we'll be contributing to making the world healthier and happier, and let us all pull together to do that. So thank you. We can now have a nice discussion.